So yes, I've been playing Starfield for the past 2 weeks, and in this review, I'm going to be keeping it spoiler-free when it comes to story. However, I will be showing off brand new gameplay that I recorded running at Ultra on my Zydex PC. Now, you've never seen this stuff before, so if you consider new locations to be spoilery, I recommend just listening to my voice just to hear me out, because we're going to be focusing on the gameplay, the graphics, how's it running, the RPG mechanics, choices and consequence, do they really matter? We'll be talking about bugs and the stability of the game, clearing up some unfounded rumors about Starfield as well, diving into shipbuilding and base building, space combat. Is this what makes the game stand out from Bethesda's other franchises like Elder Scrolls and Fallout, or is it something more entirely? By the way, a very special thank you to Bethesda for the early access to the full game of Starfield. All I have to say is I have had a blast so far with this game, and I can see myself being lost in it for countless more hours, let me tell you what. So let's find out what they pulled off here. So I think it's best to start out with the most important thing when it comes to a Bethesda game. Does it feel like you can live here? Does this universe feel believable? Does it feel like you could get just lost in Starfield for years to come? And I can safely say the answer to this one is yes. And there's a big reason for this. Bethesda games, and I use Skyrim as an example here, have always succeeded in connecting three things: story, characters, and the actual lived-in environment. If they feel disjointed at all, they aren't believable, and Starfield has succeeded in making every city, open-world destination you go to feel lived in, greeting you with memorable characters and vistas, random encounters, and moments that will be imprinted in your mind forever. And here is New Atlantis, one of the beautiful open-world spaces you will be exploring in the game. You will know New Atlantis not just because of the beautiful city skyline, but because of the dealings with the locals and the events that actually unfold here. Now, these locals become more than just backdrop NPCs. They become integral to your journey in building who you are and your reputation in the stars. And this carries over to other cities like Neon and beyond. And there are plenty of big destinations in this game to explore. Now, there's moments that want to make you pause and immediately message your buddy. Did you see that, or did you get to that one part yet? So if you didn't know, I do have a twin brother, and he's also been given access to the game 2 weeks early, and I was blown away by the fact that each time I asked him about a specific moment that I experienced, he never ran into that specific moment during his entire playthrough thus far. This told me that Starfield is absolutely massive. How did he not experience this part yet? It's such a pinnacle moment, at least in my journey. I began to ask myself, what path did I take to put me here in this moment with this epic story arc that he has somehow missed out on so far? And there's moments he was describing that truly got me excited to explore further into the universe's hidden mysteries as well. And that's Starfield's biggest draw. It's one big mystery. It's the theme of the main story arc, and it's constantly teasing you with this carrot stick that keeps you asking, wondering, but not in a frustrating way. There are finite endings in many of the story arcs, but enough open-endedness here to keep you pushing forward in the main story path. And you don't have to experience the story alone. You'll have the option to bring a companion with you, and this is where things can get interesting for sure. For example, if you're wanting to handle some illegal dealings on Neon, you might want to leave certain companions behind or bear their constant negative insights about your side hustles. You'll discover which companions fit not only into your personality as a character, but your reputation of your character within the city. I even had one companion interrupt a very important off-the-books meeting just because it was immoral in their eyes. It definitely did not go over well with the individual I was trying to do business with. So this is one part of the game that I absolutely love, is the companions and their interactions. But you can also handle situations yourself, because the background story and traits for your character that you pick at the beginning of the game really do matter here. For example, I embraced being what is called a Neon Rat, someone that was actually born on Neon, meaning I had a more unique dialogue options and choices when communicating with gangs on Neon. These unique options can lead to unique outcomes for sure, and rewards. They feel very impactful here. And by the way, it's noteworthy to mention that the main story path is just a slice of the game. I highly recommend embracing the distractions of the open world. Trust me, ignoring certain seemingly simple activities and side quests is most likely a huge mistake because this is where Starfield truly shines. What you think is the most boring mission can end up actually being a sprawling adventure in an entirely new city, almost akin to a short story with its own characters, plot points, and ending, and most notably, yes, rewards. You better believe it, Starfield keeps the rewards coming throughout your journey. You'll be given a steady flow of new weapons, spacesuits, skills, and perks, but also new ship components and entirely new ships to purchase as well. You can also purchase housing in cities, and hey, you can even build your own bases to mine for minerals. The weapons feel great overall, although I did find some weapons to feel very underpowered despite them telling me that I was holding on to a legendary. Now, this didn't happen all the time, as there were offerings here that really packed a wallop, and overall, the sheer variety of weapons kept the game's combat interesting and fun. And the combat feels so much better than it looked in the initial gameplay reveals of Starfield. Let me say, if you are worried about the combat feeling bad, that is not the case whatsoever. It feels snappy and on several occasions, very tense. You want to come up with a character build that complements whatever you favor in your arsenal to really make those weapons stand out, but you can also modify your weapons with additional mods, making them stand out even more. I gotta say, I really like discovering the Earth-based weapons of A Lost Time. I think that is really cool. I think people will be hunting certain weapon types for sure in this game. But yes, we have to talk about building your character from the wide assortment of perks and abilities on offer here. There are so many different ways you can specialize your character. Want to become an expert pilot that specializes in bounty hunting, pirating, and space combat? Well, you can go for it. How about a soldier that embraces being in the trenches on the ground with the best in weaponry and survivability? You can do that too. Or you can become an expert of stealth and persuasion. There's so many options here. But like Skyrim, the more you actually commit to doing something, the more you'll rank up in that proficiency. So if you like laser weapons, you need to be really using them to rank up further in that specialty to really make it pack a punch later down the road. And I do recommend, by the way, specializing, because the game does get more difficult as you continue through the main campaign, which I think is great. And you know what? We do need to talk about the difficulty of the game. There are difficulty settings, of course, and I played on normal. You'll find yourself battling enemies that are underleveled or overleveled at times, captains who don't miss a shot, or creatures that can really make you remember them. There's moments with definite difficulty spikes, so go into battle prepared at all times. Yeah, you'll have to deal with all the injuries, afflictions, and wounds you receive from these battles with the appropriate aid tools. Planets will also leave you with what I like to call actual scars. You'll have to treat everything from hypothermia, burns, bleeds, broken bones, and everything in between. So being prepared is crucial to surviving the dangers of the universe. By the way, I should mention space combat feels great. The more aggressive you are in space combat, the better from my personal experience. Being passive in space battles will get you killed very quickly. However, if you do like a more defensive playstyle in space, mini battles usually play out around debris or floating rocks. And yes, I can confirm you can pull off taking cover behind these. Eventually, enemies will blow them away, but at least it can give you time to react. Thankfully, you'll have your shields you can further invest in, which is probably one of the most critical parts of your spaceship in battles. You could even invest your ship's power into engines or your grav drive, which allows you, by the way, to travel from system to system. Your ship can also have its own storage space, which can be upgraded further, but ultimately, you'll want to buy an entirely new ship, a higher class of a ship, which requires certain skills before you can even pilot these higher class vessels. This is where you can really start unlocking the full potential of ship warfare, and all of these features pretty much carry over into the base building as well, by the way. Base building is an entirely different venture, so if you want to take that on, go for it. You could heavily invest in this or not. It's ultimately up to you, but it is all pretty much optional. Now, yes, you can even cripple ships in space warfare and board them. You can board these space stations as well, and you can also steal ships and then register them to call them your own. You can also trade with other ships, which I think is one of the subtle things I love about this game. I just love hailing other ships and asking them questions. Sometimes they have some hilarious stuff and stories to reveal. Now, going from a planet to space is not seamless, by the way, as there is sometimes a small loading screen, but it's really no big deal here. And that's where I wanted to talk about the game's biggest worries. One of the biggest worries when first starting this game was the fact that it felt like there was this rotation of getting your mission on a planet, getting onto your ship, having to take off, load into space outside the planet you were just on, grab jump to the next planet through type of loading screen, and then land through another loading screen, and repeat this process over and over again. Seeing your ship take off for the 100th time might feel really redundant to some people, trust me. Thankfully, Bethesda knows this, and there's a solution, as you can essentially just fast travel to certain landing spots on other planets instantly. I am so thankful that Bethesda was smart enough to have options when fast traveling between planets. So if you enjoy the boots on the ground warfare over space battles, you can really focus in on that and truly enjoy it. Or yeah, you can really embrace the life of being a full-blown pilot or something in between. But there's tools here to make it accessible and enjoyable for each playstyle, and I just love that they provided so many options here. Thank goodness, or yeah, this would have been a real problem in my mind. And mentioning exploration, there was worries about boundaries on planets and free roaming the surface of planets. All I can say is that there might be soft boundaries here and there, but there are plenty of big places to explore for sure in this game. Bethesda has included tools here to let you know if a planet is barren or not and is worth your time fully exploring. And they also have identified points of interest on planets labeled as unknown. So you can expect to trek over to these locations through enemies or roaming wildlife, collecting resources along the way. But there's definitely a grand sense of exploration here if that's what you're seeking. Yes, it is definitely here. Another big worry a lot of you have as well is this game buggy. Bethesda has bragged about this being their most polished game at launch ever, but is that really true? I can definitely confirm this is 100% true. A lot of you will be very happy with the state of the game, though don't get me wrong, I did run into my fair share of bugs and issues. There's the random oddities during conversations when an NPC will just be standing between you and the person you're trying to talk to, or the person you're talking to falls off the second story but is somehow still talking to you. You might also find an NPC here and there that just don't look like they know what they're doing, but overall NPCs are going to be going about their business as usual, and it's pretty believable and convincing. And a lot of these issues that I just mentioned are actually very minimal, at least during my time playing the game. Now, the biggest offense when it comes to bugs was when the door to the lodge, which is the critical mission hangout spot on New Atlantis where you activate main mission paths and that sort of thing, was completely inaccessible to me. The door refused to open for no reason. I tried fast traveling around New Atlantis and returned to only face this, what I considered a major bug. However, going to orbit and then landing back on New Atlantis did fix this issue very quickly, and I was on my way. This was the only major bug I faced in the game, but there was an easy workaround, thankfully. Beyond that, I could say I never once fell through the world, and my game has never really crashed once, which is pretty crazy to think about considering how big this game is. It's a very stable Bethesda release. There have been some graphical oddities here and there, but there are so few and far between. It's an experience that has been otherwise enjoyable for me personally. Again, everyone's systems are different, but yeah, that's my experience. In mentioning my system, we got to talk about graphics. There's been some major worries about the game that it might be running poorly, but from my personal experience and what you have been seeing in this video so far, it's running very good, and I'm on a 13th gen i9 processor with a 3080. And I can say this game runs smoothly for me. Slowdowns do occur in larger cities like New Atlantis on occasion, but thankfully, unlike many other launch titles lately on PC, I have never dealt with any form of strange micro stutter or anything like that. Man, I cannot stand when that happens. So in my personal experience, once again, this feels like a very optimized game on PC. Now, I did not get to try it on Xbox Series X. That's a whole different matter. Kind of curious to see what happens with that one. But yeah, overall, I'm really impressed with what they've done on PC. Now, to me personally, this is a visually stunning game overall, and you'll only really run into problems if you really seek them out. I'm certain there will be those that will seek out these problems and blow them out of proportion, but I'm telling you, my personal take, it's true. This is a polished game through and through. And back to the visuals, I gotta say, they've done some impressive work with the lighting here and the sheer level of actual detail, geometry, and Digital Foundry also spoke about that. The actual detail in terms of what's on screen here, the level of geometry going on, is far superior far more impressive than what they've ever done. You'll walk into a room and see so much going on and be like, wow, there are so many little details here, and you just want to take it all in. That's one thing that I was super impressed with. Again, also, the lighting engine is actually really strong in this game. Now, I can keep going on and on about Starfield, but I think that would only spoil it. Just know I can't recommend this game enough. It's definitely Skyrim level treatment here, and I do believe people will be talking about and playing this one for years and years to come. I am so excited, by the way, to see what the modding community does next with this one to basically forever the life of this game. So yeah, cannot wait to see what they do with that. But I will be covering those mods right here on the channel, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Do not forget, smack that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, please smack that like button. I made it through a lot of like turmoil and crazy stuff. Let me tell you what, it was challenging because I have been sicker than a dog. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more Starfield news and updates. Thank you also for the love and support. You guys made it possible for me getting the early access to Starfield. So yes, thank you. But thank you again, and I will see you all next time. Take care.